Hello everybody, welcome to Lesson 7 of Ignite Your Music Career. I hope you're having a creative time. Last week we discussed writing effective metadata for your music, which you will have to submit to music libraries, music editors, music supervisors, and it helps them kind of organize and categorize your music. It's really your sales pitch for your songs. That track you just heard, Insecure Thoughts, has been in a number of TV shows. Still pays royalties to this day. We're going to have a look at that track here in a little bit. Not the cue itself, but what we're going to talk about this week is how to embed metadata within your track and why it's so important. I hope you enjoyed the free samples last week. There's some more here. And there'll be some additional links to material for this lesson as well. So this week we're going to focus on embedding metadata, why it's important. I'm going to show you how to do it, talk about the effectiveness of it for music supervisors and editors, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what is embedded metadata? Embedded metadata is the same information pretty much that you created last week for your written metadata, embedded right into your file. So it'll have the same words, key description, words, genre, BPM, the title, your contact information, all kinds of information, but it's actually right in the file. Now why would you do this? There's a few reasons. A, music supervisors and editors tend to categorize music. So they do a quick search like we talked about last time, and they look for dramatic music or happy music or sad music. And if your indicators or describers are actually attached to that file within their database or their iTunes, if they use that, a lot of people still use that, music supervisors, your track will pop up. So it's really important to have really good metadata. Editors do this, music soups, ad agencies, video game companies. Anybody that uses music has to have a database of music or lists of music or actual files of music. So it's important to have this information embedded right in the file. And the contact information is really important because these people have really tight deadlines. So if they hear one of your songs, they really want to get it cleared for radio or for TV show or for an ad or a game, they can get to you immediately because your information is going to be embedded in that file. Now, if you're someone who's got a back catalog, after today's lesson, you should go back and make sure all your files are embedded with this information. So it's going to be brand new metadata if there's no metadata in there already, your email address, which we'll show how to do that in a few minutes here. But all the information that's attached to that song, that's really the sales pitch, as we talk about, has to be embedded in that file. It's really, really important because if you're sending music out, if they ask you to send an MP3 or a WAV file, by a WeTransfer or zip file, whatever it might be, you want all of that information in there. Now, if you're someone who streams or distributes your music to, through a distributor like it could be SoundDrop or anybody like that, or Bandcamp, those files should be embedded too for different reasons, because people use searches to add to playlists and that sort of thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to show you how to do it with a free tool that I use every day in my studio called Audacity. And afterwards, you'll be able to do it for all your songs going forward and also your back catalog. Okay, so here we are. We've got a track here, Insecure Thoughts. It was at the beginning of this lesson. So we're going to open it up and we're going to actually attach metadata to this track. Again, it's really important for your tracks to have embedded metadata so that all the information is there for the music supervisor or editor. As we'll show here, your PRO, your IPI-CAE number, all that stuff makes it really easy for them to log this information on cue sheets for shows or in games or get licenses from you very quickly. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that happens in the music world is that these people move really quickly. So as you can see by my messy desktop, I've got a lot of organizing to do and archiving to do. So we're going to open up this file and just see if we can play a little bit. You'll hear a little bit of it. So let's get that kind of feel, drony, pulsy, like we talked about. It's pretty cool music these days. So we're going to open this up with Audacity. And I use this tool, like I mentioned, every day. So we're going to open this up. And we are going to embed the metadata. So here we go. As you can see, this is the WAV file. The Audacity tool itself, you can do lots of cool things. If you want to amplify your track or take it down. You can, if you're doing loops, you can loop play it to see if it works seamlessly. It's got all kinds of different effects you can add to it, EQs, compressors, that sort of thing. It's got a BPM finder in there as well. So currently, this is the track, say, I just mixed out of Logic. So now we want to export it. Maybe we want to export it in different ways. Some music libraries or supervisors like to have AIF files. Some like to have WAV files. It's typically WAV or AIF. But there's other ways you can export this file as well. So we're just going to hit Export. So go to File menu, hit Export. It's going to come up with the title. So we're just going to call this Insecure Thoughts. We'll save it to our desktop. As you can see, there are different formats here. AIF, WAV are the two popular ones in the TV world and film world. MP3, sometimes they'll ask you to send MP3s as samples, just to see, if they want to use that file or that tune for a certain show, and then they'll ask you for the WAV file. Ogg Vorbis is a type of file that's used a lot in video game world, so is FLAC. So these are pretty much the most common ones. So if you hit this button here, Options, you can pick what type of file you want. We'll get into that more of that later on as we proceed in lessons. So we're just going to export this as a Microsoft WAV file, 24-bit. So we picked our file type, we're going to hit OK. So now what we're going to do is hit Save, and this metadata box comes up. So this is where you're going to import or put in the information that is attached to the track. So obviously you're going to put your artist name in. There's a few little tricks that I try to use here. I'll put my email address right up top, just because immediately they know they can contact me. And if they like the track, they don't have to scroll down through the other metadata. If they just like the track, and they know they can email me right away, and I'll get back to them. So the track title, Insecure Thoughts. Now if it's an album track, so say you did 10 tracks on a new record and this is track number 2, you'd probably put number 2 in there for the number, and then the album title right here. This is not part of an album right now, so I'm just going to leave those blank. The year it was recorded or written, 2016. Now the genre button here, they give you a lot of different genres. None of these really apply to this piece of music. It's a cinematic, instrumental piece. I mean, they have instrumental here, but instrumental is not a good enough tag for this. So what I tend to do, for example, this is used in a show called Evidence of Evil, a bunch of episodes. I know that that type of show, they like pulsing, droney, dark, tense, eerie kind of stuff. That's just what the show is based on. There's a lot of tracks they use for that. So I'm going to go I'm just going to call it that. I'm going to make up my own genre. And the reason I do that is because the music supervisor or music editor has got a database. It could be in its iTunes or it could be a separate online database. If the music supervisor for the show or supervisors is looking for these types of tracks, they'll put in a search and typically your track will come up. Maybe there's a few other tracks that will come up too. The person or people who have the best metadata usually get picked first. And here's another little tip. If you have your music used in, say, an episode of Evidence of Evil, it's all cleared, they're happy with it, they'll just keep coming back to your tracks because they know, A, it's professionally done, the metadata's done right, they've got all the information they need to put on cue sheets. So that's why it's really important. Just like the written metadata that we talked about last week, effective metadata writing, it's the same for the embedded stuff. So for the comments here, I typically add, like we talked about last time, a description, a short description of the track. A dark, drone, pulsing track that will raise the tension level to any scene. So that's just my little sales pitch for that track. Again, if you do a really good description, there'll be little keywords in here that that will pick up. So one of the keywords I like to put in here for the type of music I write is cinematic. A dark cinematic drone and pulsing track that will raise the tension level of any scene. So that's my little sales pitch. So now we're going to go down here and we're going to add a few different things. So we're going to add a few more boxes. And some of the things we're going to talk, like we talked about last time, were BPM. So that gives them an idea. Maybe they're looking for a track that's 120 BPM. We're going to add that in there. We're going to scroll down. Key. So maybe they're looking for a certain key. So your BPM is your tempo marking, right? You can actually do that tempo if you want to. Tempo. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put in some keywords. We talked about this last time as well. So keywords with a comma. Evil. I put evil in there because that piece of music has been used in that show, Evidence of Evil. Obviously, that's the name of the show. So, etc., etc. Put as many of those in as you can. There's no limit. And that'll help, again, increase your odds of having your tune picked up. You can also put in your ownership. So if you own 100% of the track, they love that because that means they only have to get one signature. I'm gonna add a few more of these. I will put in the PRO. I put in my IPI CAE number. I'll put in my website. I'll put in my telephone number in case they really need to get a hold of me quickly to get this this track cleared to be used on a TV show. And all kinds of different details like that. So as much information as you can put in there that's attached to your track, once it gets into their systems or their database, it's just a lot easier for them to actually feel like, hey, this is a professional recording, this is a professional person, they know what they're doing, and I can get this song cleared really quickly. I've been to conferences where I know one in particular where a woman who had submitted a song to a music supervisor. They wanted to use the song in a pretty famous movie. They couldn't figure out how to get a hold of her because there was no, I mean, the email may have been, a while back, or she might have just submitted it online. So there was no metadata, so they tried it for a couple of days to catch up with her. She was traveling, so at the end of the day, they finally said, "Listen, we've got to get another song. We haven't got time. This has got to air. Or this has got to go to on the market." So it was a pretty famous movie. She lost about $25,000 over 2 years in royalties, just because she didn't have this information in here. Okay, so once we have our information in here, now what we're going to do is save it. So now that track is saved with metadata embedded in it and can be used by music supervisors for TV shows, films, games, but they know the information. If they lose your email that you sent them that link to, or you sent them that track, the information is right in there. That sits in their database and helps them find music on a daily basis. They get hundreds of emails a day. They listen to hundreds of tracks a week, sometimes thousands. So if there's something they like and they want to use, it's really important that you have the information in there. So I hope you found this informative. Download Audacity. If you have a back catalog, go back and enter the information for each one of your tracks, your stems, your loops, anything that you have at all that's out there in the big wide world, It's really important when you submit that stuff, and we'll be doing that in the next few weeks. Okay, so now you know how to embed metadata right directly into your files. It's important to be detailed. Make sure you have all the information in there as we discussed, as I showed on the video. Do that for your back catalog if you have a back catalog of tunes. I do it for everything, sound effects that I do, any stings I do, every stem, which we'll talk about a little further on down the line here, but every version has the metadata in it. It's not just one main version. The other thing it does, it really makes it easy for people to, like music supervisors or editors, to make sure the right information goes on the cue sheet that gets to your PRO, ASCAP, BMI, SOCAN, etc. It just takes all the confusion out, which means you're going to get paid on time and the correct amount of money. So I've got links to Audacity, versions for Mac and PC. It's free. I use it every day, like I mentioned earlier. Download the free samples. Send me any feedback. It'd be great to hear from our subscribers. And I'll talk to you next time.